This is Poitín for the modern era. This week, let me tell you about Pangur Irish Poitín. Welcome back to the channel. I'm Matt, I'm the whiskey nerd, and like I said, this is going to be some Poitín for the modern era. So let me get this into the glass and I'll tell you a little bit more about Pangur Irish Poitín. So this is Poitín, like I said, for the modern era. So the company behind this, Killowen, are hoping to get Poitín into kind of a cocktail recipes, into some kind of fun bars, into kind of something that you would actually drink rather than being something shady, because for a long time, Poitín was a very shady Irish spirit, something you'd get from a farmer, kind of like a moonshiner in America, where you'd be distilling it in your backyard. It might be illegal, it might not be that safe, but these days Poitín is making a comeback. Now, full disclosure, I was sent this bottle because I was entering into a cocktail competition run by Killowen, because they wanted to kind of get some interesting recipes for Poitín. So I did send me this, but they didn't ask me to do a review, it didn't ask me to do anything else, but just in the interest of full disclosure, I was given this bottle for free a few months ago, and as you can see, I have been enjoying this bottle because I've been making some nice cocktails at home. Now, first off, what is Poitín? I mean, if you're new to the scene, what is Poitín? Poitín is, if you think of it, it can kind of be described as an unaged whiskey. So obviously there are going to be some Poitíns that can be made with, apples or potatoes or any kind of spirit, anything with sugar you can distill. But for the most part, most modern day Poitíns are kind of like an unaged whiskey, where it focuses on the grains, the influence you get from barley or from oats or from rye, focus in on that. So if you put this into a cask for, let's say, 3 years, you probably end up with a very nice whiskey. But this is all about kind of the basic level of the spirit, what influence the grain has on the spirit. So that's kind of what Poitín is. I did say that this is from Killowen Distillery, which is a very small kind of micro distillery here in Ireland, and it is from Killowen Distillery, no doubt about that. They are the driving force behind trying to make Poitín into more of a kind of a mass market spirit where people can enjoy it around the world. But this isn't only from Killowen, because it's actually a 50-50 marriage of two different Poitíns. Now, they don't say who the other distillery is, but from looking at their social media posts and the description of them saying, one small distillery and one large distillery, we can guess what the other distillery is. It's Great Northern Distillery, just kind of down the road from Killowen. And when I say Killowen Distillery is tiny, I'll put a picture of the outside of their distillery from Google Maps up there so you can see just how small this is. And now we'll also put a picture of Great Northern Distillery. Great Northern is so big, I can't really find a good picture to show you how big it is, but that's, I think, as close as I could get to showing how big Great Northern is, especially in comparison to Killowen's tiny little one-man shed operation. The name for the Poitín, Pangur, comes from an old poem, Pangur Poitín, which is the name of a cat. And if you look at the kind of bottle there, you can see a nice white cat, Pangur Poitín, on the bottle, because as you can see, it's a white clear spirit. Now, they do have a couple of variations of Pangur. They've got this one here, which was rested in bourbon casks for about 10 weeks. They got one that was rested in PX sherry casks for about 10 weeks, and they got one that was rested in stout casks for 10 weeks. And I think that one, the stout cask one, might go really, really well in things like an Irish coffee, something kind of where you get those coffee notes, you get those chocolate notes from the stout influence into the Irish coffee. I think it could go really well, but we're here today to talk about this one. So let's go in for the nose on the Pangur. Okay, immediately I'm getting like lemon drizzle cake. Like, it is quite sweet. It is coming in at 47% ABV, so it's not super high, but it's also not super low. But the ABV isn't really jumping out of the glass. Like I said, it's got that kind of lemon drizzle cake, quite sweet, kind of like that grainy sweetness you get with some whiskies, but without that cask influence, without that kind of oaky influence coming through. Just very, very sweet, kind of botanical, kind of herbal, kind of earthy coming through as well. So there's a flavor, or there's a smell rather, called petrichor, and while you might not have heard of it before, you've definitely smelled it. Petrichor is the smell of like when rain has fallen on like dried out grass and dried out kind of soil, where you get that kind of raindrops kind of revitalizing the soil, revitalizing the earthiness, that little bit of sweet kind of herbal, botanical, but still earthy note. That's kind of what I'm getting here. Like it smells like rain on kind of freshly cut grass where it's kind of bringing it back to life, but it's still super sweet. Like it's got all that lemon drizzle cake, like I was saying, still up there on front. Not a huge amount of spice, like at least on the nose, not really any spice, just focusing in with the kind of notes you get from the grains. So let's go in for the palate and see if that changes. Cheers. The earthiness is front and center here once again, giving us that really rich, kind of like a creamy, dense mouthfeel. It actually is quite creamy and rich, kind of mouth coating on the mouthfeel of this whiskey. I'm getting a little bit of peppery spice, like a little bit kind of like a white pepper as well, coming through in the mid palate, again with that lemon drizzle cake, again with that kind of citrusy, sugary, grainy note coming through. So I'm going to go in for a second sip and see what else I can find. It's actually not that hot in the mouth. I mean, it is coming in at 47%, so it's not super high, but it's also not super low. But with that peppery spice, with that kind of creamy mouthfeel, with all that sweetness coming through, it's actually not that hot in the palate, and I'm getting a little bit like that earthy note. It's coming a little bit kind of almost licoricey, aniseedy on the finish. So I'm going to go in again, but we're going to talk about the finish. Cheers. Yeah, as the flavors start to fade off, I mean, obviously up front you get your herbal, earthy, botanical note, then that spiciness takes over, then that sweetness kind of takes over again. But then as those flavors fade, the earthy kind of botanical note, which I think is like the base of the spirit, that stays on, lingering while the other flavors start to fade. And you definitely do get a kind of a licoricey, kind of aniseed flavor coming through into the spirit as it lingers on. Like the finish is, I think it's a good kind of medium long. Like I'm still tasting it, I'm still getting that kind of botanical note coming through, that earthiness coming through, but it's definitely like quite mild and quite clean. I mean, that's kind of what I would always describe Poitín as being. I mean, it's got more flavor than vodka, but it's also cleaner than a gin. It has that kind of clean finish of a vodka, but it has all that flavor, that sweetness that you would be looking for in a gin, but without that kind of sometimes funky note you can get in a gin. So did Killowen succeed in what they set out to achieve? I think yes. I think yes, because they wanted to make something fun, something different, Poitín for the modern era, and I think they definitely succeeded in that. Between the kind of cool label design with the interesting looking cat there, between the different color caps on the different kind of flavors of Poitín you can get, I think they definitely made something a bit distinctive and a bit fun that you would want to use in cocktails. And as you can see, I've definitely enjoyed making cocktails with this, so I will definitely be making more cocktails. In fact, I'll be making a Blue Lightning cocktail later on this week with the Pangur Poitín, because I really want to show off how versatile the spirit can be, how it can add different notes and different flavors and different textures to a cocktail you might already be familiar with. Like I said, I've made classic cocktails with this Poitín before, but I want to make something a bit fun and a bit different. So I'll be making that. If you want to see that video, make sure you scroll down, hit that thumbs up and hit that subscribe button. I put out cocktail recipes on Fridays, but I put out whiskey and Poitín reviews on Wednesdays. So if you want to see more, make sure you hit subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Sláinte.